Mẹ nó không biết thằng mang con Diệp trốn đâu. Alo, anh Tôn à? Em tìm thấy Diệp rồi. Thế mấy thằng mày cứ theo sát con Diệp cho tao, xem nó đang sống ở đâu. Vâng vâng. Có em. Anh Tôn, em tìm thấy mình có đang đứng.
The first light of dawn crept over the misty hills, casting a soft golden glow across the sprawling fields where Tu Diep began her day. The air was crisp, filled with the earthy scent of dew-kissed soil as she stepped into her watermelon patch, her hands gently parting the tangled vines. With practiced ease, she selected ripe, plump fruits, their green rinds glistening under the early sun. Each melon felt heavy and satisfying in her grip, a testament to her hard work. By mid-morning, her labor had filled a sturdy burlap sack to the brim and a large woven basket nearly overflowed, the sweet aroma of the harvest mingling with the distant clatter of a wooden farmhouse and the soft clucking of chickens roaming nearby. The scene, captured in the scattered photos, painted a picture of rural tranquility amidst brewing tension. Diep paused to wipe the sweat from her brow, her breath visible in the cool air as she murmured to herself, "Today, I'll gather some watermelons. They might look small, but they're incredibly sweet." She set one aside carefully, adding, "I'll leave this here and fetch my basket later to carry it back." Inspecting another, she broke into a wide grin. "This one's perfectly ripe, and it's huge." A smaller fruit caught her eye and she chuckled softly. "This one's so cute and just the right size." Her movements were rhythmic, a dance with nature, as she continued her task, unaware of the storm gathering beyond the fields. Meanwhile, CEO James made his way up the uneven path to his farm, a heavy sack of feed slung over his broad shoulder for his loyal dog Hockey. The yard sprawled before him, overgrown with tangled vines and littered with fallen leaves and logs, a stark contrast to the orderly snapshots in the photos. The neglect stung him deeply. Diep's absence had left the place wild and unkempt. He scattered scraps for Hockey, who wagged his tail eagerly, then grabbed a broom to sweep the cluttered area. His mind raced as he planned the day ahead, the weight of his rivalry with John pressing down like a storm cloud. In a dimly lit office far from the fields, tension crackled like static. Diep's brother stepped inside, greeting their father with a cautious, "Dad, what's going on? You called me here for something important." The father's face hardened, his voice low. "James has ended our contract. He came to me the other day, warning me not to touch his family. He's clearly lost his mind and gone rogue." The son paced the room, his footsteps echoing. With the deal gone, we're in deep trouble. I don't know how we'll recover from this. But a sly, calculating smile crept onto his face as he turned to his father. Don't worry, Dad, I've still got a trump card, Diep. James crossed us, so we'll use her to turn the tables. The father leaned back, studying his son. You've got a plan for this? The son nodded confidently, leaning closer. Trust me, I've got everything lined up. We'll play this card and watch him squirm. The conversation shifted to darker territory. Lately, all the timber companies have jacked up their prices, the father observed, his brow furrowed. James's company can't get any wood to keep running. The son smirked, a glint of pride in his eyes. I orchestrated that spike to corner him. Every move was mine. The father raised an eyebrow, his tone sharpening. How did you pull that off? You need a fallback plan, son. Think this through. The son's resolve didn't falter. No one crosses the same river twice. I'm betting everything on this fight with James. The father studied him for a long moment before relenting. All right, I'll trust you this time. But you'd better not let me down. Then, with a steely glare that could cut through steel, he issued a command. Send people to find Diep immediately. We need her location at any cost. James won't outlast me this time. I'm done losing. Back at the farm, James hefted his axe and climbed the hillside. The logs from the photos stacked nearby, their rough bark splintering under his swings. He chopped banana trees with precision, the rhythmic thud echoing through the valley. Carrying the load back, he mixed the fruit with corn, preparing feed for the chickens and ducks pecking at the ground. He muttered to himself, "Wait a bit, you all. I need to sort this mess out before Diep comes back. It's a wreck out here." He tossed the feed, watching the animals scramble. Almost ready. Hold on just a little longer. His thoughts drifted to Diep's safety. The chaos of the farm a mirror to the turmoil in his mind as he strategized against the growing threat. The midday sun blazed relentlessly overhead, its fierce rays beating down on Tu Diep as she hoisted her heavy sack of watermelons onto her back, the large woven basket swaying precariously at her side. She adjusted the load with a determined grunt, her footsteps steady along the winding dirt path that stretched toward the city market. The lush greenery of the fields gradually faded into the chaotic hum of bustling streets, filled with the roar of motorbikes and the chatter of vendors haggling over goods. Her journey was long, the weight of the harvest a testament to her resilience, but her spirit remained unbroken. Reaching a dusty roadside spot near the market's edge, she carefully arranged her melons on a makeshift stall, wiping sweat from her brow before calling out with a bright, hopeful smile, "Fresh watermelons, just 10,000 VN per kilo." The vibrant pile of fruit drew curious onlookers like moths to a flame, their footsteps slowing as they inspected her wares. An elderly woman shuffled forward, her eyes narrowing with interest as she leaned on a cane. "Cut one open for me to see if it's worth it." Diep nodded eagerly, pulling out a knife and slicing a melon with a swift, practiced motion. The red flesh gleamed under the sun, juices dripping onto the ground, and she held it up proudly. "Take a look, only 10,000 VN. The woman's face softened with approval. "I'll take two. Let's see if they're as sweet as they look." Diep wrapped the melons carefully, her hands steady despite the fatigue creeping into her bones. Another customer, a young man with a basket of his own, approached. "How much for 3 kilos?" She calculated quickly. 30,000 VN. Fresh from the vine. The transaction completed, she watched him walk away, her small earnings growing as the crowd thickened. Back at the farm, CEO James paced the sagging wooden structures, the heat amplifying the neglect captured in the photos. Overgrown weeds choking the fences, crumbling sheds tilting under the weight of time. His phone buzzed insistently as he dialed a worker, his voice tight with urgency. "It's James. There's an emergency at the lumber mill. Meet me there now." The worker's voice crackled through the line, tinged with static. "I'm about 10 kilometers away, stuck in traffic. I'll head out immediately." James sighed, running a hand through his sweat-dampened hair. "Wait for me, I'm on my way. Don't start without me." Hanging up, he turned to a local handyman lingering by the chicken coop, the man's weathered face etched with years of labor under the same sun. "Sit down for a moment," James said, his tone firm yet laced with exhaustion. "I need your help. You know the farmers around here. Find me someone to clean this place up for Diep's return. Tend to hockey, water the plants, handle the chickens and ducks."
ILL pay 300,000 Việt Nam đồng a giây.
The handyman nodded thoughtfully, scratching his stubbled chin as he considered the task. "I can handle that. Middle-aged women might be best. They're more careful than the young ones who rush through and miss details." James leaned against a post, his mind racing. "Good call. Know anyone local who'd take the job?" The handyman smiled faintly. "Plenty are out of work around here. I'll ask around." This was Diep's place, but she's been gone for a while. "I want it spotless when she's back to avoid any trouble with thieves or neglect." James straightened, his voice lowering with resolve. "They should live here too, not just visit. It's a big job. Fair wage for that." The handyman tilted his head, calculating. "It's close to their homes, so 300,000 is reasonable. I'll find the right person, someone reliable." James reached into his pocket, pulling out a thick wad of cash. "Here's 5 million up front. Send me your account details later, and I'll transfer it to get things started." The handyman pocketed the money with a nod, assuring him, "I've got this covered. Walk around the farm, check everything, and let me know if you need anything extra, like tools or more feed." As the handyman departed to spread the word, Diep balanced a small handheld scale, calling out to a new customer, 2 kilos 20,000 VN. A middle-aged woman handed over the money with a grin. "Been watching you sell out quick. Finally caught you before you're gone." Diep packed the fruit with a tired but genuine laugh, her spirits lifted by the small success. She glanced at the horizon, the market bustling around her, unaware of the eyes watching from the shadows. Back at the mill, James's phone buzzed again. Hung's name flashed on the screen. "I'm here," Hung said, his voice tight with frustration. James replied, "Good, let's figure this out together. Meet me by the old stacks." At the lumber mill, weathered logs sat in silent, dusty stacks, their rough surfaces etched with time, the air thick with the pungent scent of aged timber, and the unspoken dread of impending collapse as CEO James met CEO Hung amidst the piled wood captured in the photos. Hung arrived, breathless from the hurried journey, his shirt clinging to his back with sweat, his boots kicking up small clouds of dust as he approached. "Been waiting long?" he asked, wiping his brow with a tattered handkerchief. James shook his head, his jaw tight with tension, his eyes scanning the desolate yard. "Not too long. What's the urgency driving you here?" Hung exhaled sharply, his voice tinged with frustration. "I checked with other firms this morning. Timber prices have shot up across the board, so I haven't sourced anything new. Look at this. It's all old stock, sitting here for at least a week with no fresh supply in sight, just rotting away." James frowned, stepping closer to the stacks, his fingers brushing against the dry bark. "We need a solid strategy or we're finished. This could break us and everything we've built." Hung's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper, his eyes darting around as if expecting eavesdroppers. "Heard John's out of prison." James tensed, his fists clenching at his sides, the muscles in his arms tightening with suppressed anger. "Yesterday. I met him face to face. He's determined to take our company and won't stop until he does, his eyes burning with revenge." Hung leaned in closer, his breath uneven, the weight of the news settling between them. "Think he's behind the price hike?" James nodded slowly, his mind piecing together the jagged puzzle pieces. "John's just a pawn. Someone powerful with deep connections freed him. Maybe someone hidden, not from our area, pulling strings from the shadows with cold precision." Hung rubbed his temples, the strain evident in the lines on his face. "A high-ranking figure, perhaps. We need to dig deeper into this. Find out who's really calling the shots and pulling the levers of power." James paced the uneven ground, his boots crunching against the gravel, kicking at a loose log that rolled slightly, sending up a puff of dust that danced in the sunlight. "No wood, sky-high costs. It's a disaster waiting to happen, a ticking bomb we can't ignore. I'll visit a military contact who can uncover the truth behind this mess and expose the puppet master." Hung raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued, his posture shifting as he crossed his arms. "Who and where is this person? Give me something to work with here." James replied, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling in his mind. "A top officer about 300 kilometers away. A man with resources and a network we can't match. I'll borrow your car. The roads are wrecked from recent landslides, barely passable, with mudslides blocking half the route." Hung nodded, his expression grim, the lines around his mouth deepening. "Go alone then. Call me when you're done. I'll hold the fort here and keep the crew from panicking." As James finalized his plans, mentally mapping the treacherous journey ahead through rugged terrain and unpredictable weather, he adjusted his jacket against the morning chill that still lingered at 7:57 a.m. on this Saturday, June 7, 2025. His thoughts raced with the logistics, fuel, time, and the slim hope of an ally, while Deep sold her last melon at the market, 2 kilos 20,000 VN, to a satisfied customer, her smile masking the exhaustion creeping into her limbs as the clock ticked toward noon. The market buzzed around her, a symphony of voices and bartering, oblivious to the danger closing in. Unseen in the shadows cast by the midday sun, a tracker crouched behind a gnarled tree, his phone pressed tightly to his ear as he whispered urgently into the device. "Found Deep. She's at the market, surrounded by people." John's voice growled back through the line, harsh and commanding, a predator's snarl. "Follow her closely. Tell me exactly where she is and every move she makes. Don't lose her trail." The tracker nodded, his eyes locked on Deep's figure as she packed her stall. "Yes, sir, I'm on it," sticking to her like glue, noting every step. At that precise moment, with the clock nearing 8 a.m., James dialed Deep, his voice laced with a protective edge that trembled slightly. "It's me. What are you up to right now?" Deep laughed lightly, the sound carrying over the market noise, a brief respite from her toil. "Just harvesting watermelons and selling them. Keeping busy at Uncle's place, making a little cash." James's tone grew serious, a frown creasing his forehead as he gripped the phone tighter. "Stay home, not the market. I'm worried about your safety with everything going on out there. The risks are too high." Deep brushed it off with a casual wave, though he couldn't see it, her voice steady. "I'll be fine, just 2 kilometers from home. Nothing to fret over, it's a quiet route." As she hung up and adjusted her basket, slinging it over her shoulder for the trek back, the tracker's eyes narrowed, noting her path with military precision, every turn, every pause, and relaying the details to John with a cold efficiency, igniting a dangerous pursuit that threatened to unravel the fragile peace and plunge them all into a deadly confrontation. The tracker lingered, blending into the crowd as Deep began her walk home, her figure growing smaller against the green backdrop of the hills. He murmured updates into his phone. "She's heading northwest, likely toward that farmhouse we spotted earlier. Should I move in closer?" John's voice crackled back. "Stay back but keep her in sight. I want the exact location before we strike. James won't see this coming." The tracker nodded silently, his heart pounding with the thrill of the hunt, as he shadowed her through the winding paths, the stakes rising with every step. Meanwhile, James climbed into Hung's car, the engine sputtering to life as he prepared for the long drive, his mind a whirlwind of strategy and worry, unaware that the net was tightening around Deep with every passing minute. The morning light cast long shadows, a silent omen of the battle to come.
With her husband for about 50 years, she talked of how they met and what their life had been like. And I could tell by her stories and the warmth of her tone of voice that she, too, had a happy marriage. Then it was my turn, and all I could do was cry as I told the story of my own husband's battle with cancer and chronic pain. As unquote, I'm used to asking people what they have learned from their experiences, so it was natural for me to ask her for advice on what happened her deal with the crushing grief.